Well, it's been a few days now since the St. Louis Cardinals pulled off their blockbuster move of sending Sonny Gray to the Boston Red Sox, and now a week away from the MLB Winter Meetings. It does seem like the Cardinals are going to be very active here in the next few weeks, and it's got us wondering who's next on the move? Who's the next player that Chaim Bloom is going to be trading from this Cardinals roster? We're going to react a little bit more to that Sonny Gray trade, but also talk through what we think the next moves in the succession will be for the Cardinals this offseason on this episode of Dealing the Cards. Welcome back into Dealing the Cards. Josh and Andrew here today, down Sandy today, but we're St. Louis Cardinals podcast goes live twice a week over here on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching now, like the stream, helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you're new here. We know many of you are watching are new every time, so we really appreciate the support. If you'll see on audio, rate and review helps the podcast out a ton, helps us reach more people, but also just helps what we do because we love doing this. We love bringing our takes and reactions. We love listening to your comments, and so you comment on audio platforms, comment on the YouTube stream as we go. Steve, I see you in the chat right now. Good afternoon to you as well. Last time we recorded, I was in a car wearing a suit and we're doing an emergency Sonny Gray podcast, so it's been a little bit here. We do have a fun video that Andrew's working on. Sandy and I just recorded the audio for it, and that'll be going live here soon. So excited for you guys to watch that. And as always, we're presented by 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. We'll get more to that here in a little bit. But Andrew, obviously the Cardinals pulled off that huge Sonny Gray trade the other day. None of us are surprised necessarily that Sonny Gray was on the move, but he was less sure than Nolan Arenado, I think, at this point. And even Brendan Donovan, I think, felt more likely than Sonny Gray at this point, just because of the money needing to be moved and Sonny having a no trade clause. Sorry, Steve, to disappoint with no suit today. But he ended up moving, right? And we kind of got inklings that obviously there was a market out there for him. But it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. The Cardinals ate $20 million on that deal to make the deal happen. And because of that, they were to get Richard Fitz, a right-hander with a little bit of MLB experience, but lots of years of control for the Boston Red Sox, as well as left-handed prospect Brandon Clark, who's just got a big-time fastball, big-time slider. Kyle Reese and Kareem Hawk were who do Kareem does Birds on the Farm for us. If you missed that episode, go back and watch that. They did an excellent breakdown of that trade and the Cardinals farm system. But obviously I think they both think there's more in Richard Fitz's arm than he's shown so far. And there's some tweaks he can make to be even more effective big league starter. I don't think anyone thinks he's a future ace in the making, but maybe a middle of the rotation starter with a lot of control, or a back end guy. Obviously could fill a role in the bullpen if needed as well. But then Brandon Clark is that prize of the deal, right? Big stuff. Chaim Bloom's been very complimentary of Clark so far as well. Has gone as far as to say he has some of the best stuff in the minor leagues. And obviously if he can just control it a little bit and be able to work multiple innings, like this is a guy who could honestly be one of the Cardinals' best pitching prospects. He was a top 100 prospect from Baseball America midway through the year. It sounds like he dealt with some blister issues as the year went on, which hurt him as well. So anyways, that's a quick recap of the Sonny Gray trade. We'll break that down a little bit more as we go through. But Andrew, a week out from the winter meetings right now, I'm curious, which Cardinal do you think is on the move next? We've got Brendan Donovan, obviously, is the clear centerpiece option that seems like a lot of teams are interested in, even though I don't necessarily want them to trade him. I can't remember fully where you land on that, but it does seem like they're going to move him, whether it's Nolan Arenado, JoJo Romero, Wilson Contreras, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, heck, even Alec Burleson. Like, there are a lot of players that could be dealt. I don't think all those guys will be dealt. But Andrew, as you think of 1 week after the winter meetings and post Sonny Gray, where do you think the Cardinals go next?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of these players want to know where they're going before, January. And I think that's generally how most of baseball likes to operate. So I think winter meetings, we're going to start to see a lot of traction pickup in the trade market, on the free agency market. I definitely think that Arenado is probably going to be the first out of that bunch to go, just because the Cardinals are so eager to move him. I know Chaim has mentioned getting a lot of interest on the players, and that probably is mainly like Donovan and like Burleson or some of those other guys. Probably not as much so on the Arenado front, but I think he might sit and wait a little bit more on the Donovan side of things. He doesn't have a no trade clause. So like if the Cardinals hold him into like February, it's not really going to be a big deal. Maybe if they hold Arenado until February, he for some reason might not want to go. I know the list of teams interested in him is definitely smaller than the list of teams interested in Donovan, but I also don't think you're going to have to give up nearly as much. Um, you've been hearing rumors that like the Pirates are interested in Arenado. I don't know if that would necessarily happen. I don't know if Arenado would prefer going to the Pirates. I don't know what we've heard about that. That would be kind of funny.
Something tells me he's not going to Pittsburgh, but you never know.
But like that'd be cool, if their owner wants to make the CBA negotiations a little bit tougher next year by saying, "See, look, I spent some money." That could be a good way to do it. Maybe they'll try to package him for Paul Skeens or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, that would be a really interesting. Like, I don't think Nato would want to go to Pittsburgh, but if Pittsburgh would take on even more money for that reason of, hey, we've quote unquote spent money here. If I were the Cardinals, I'd be very interested in doing something like that. Because even if you eat money for anyone else, you're probably not getting anything really.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just doubt Pittsburgh's on the table.
Yeah, I think Arizona is one I heard. The Angels, they just cut ties with Anthony Rendon, which I think is really funny. Tough that he's retiring. I would have liked to see him play for the Cardinals for a little bit, but whatever. Anyway,
I think you're being sarcastic there.
No, I think it would actually be kind of funny.
Oh my gosh,
like
no.
Veteran leadership.
Yeah, that's what this young clubhouse needs is Anthony Rendon's attitude.
Rub off on Jordan Walker, make him even less motivated to play baseball.
Jeez, what are we doing? What if they in one offseason they move Brendan Donovan, who's like the epitome in the best way of a clubhouse dude and leader, and they brought in Anthony Rendon to replace him? That would just be.
I just think it would be kind of funny to make him rot in St. Louis for a year, but I guess he's going to be chilling.
Anyways, he's sitting on the couch. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Do you think it's Nato then? Who's next on the move?
I think definitely he's the guy that's going to be moved next. I think it could be Donovan, but probably leaning more towards Arenado. And then after that, we'll see who else they're willing to move. I think JoJo Romero is also a sneaky guy that could get moved next because he's a reliever, 1 year left. There's not a lot it would take to move him away, but I know the reliever market is starting to heat up with Ryan Helsley moving to Baltimore to not be a starter, which is great. I don't really want to see him do that and succeed, but he can go out there, close games for them. That seems like a good fit. But yeah, if the reliever market starts to move, JoJo is a guy that's been drawing interest. I could see that happening sneakily too. But in terms of big moves, big guys that they could move, I think Arenado is probably next.
Yeah, I would probably put my money on Arenado or Romero being the next to go, but obviously a Brendan Donovan trade could happen at any moment. I think that's one that they're probably going to keep trying to pump up the market as much as possible. I don't think they're quick to make a deal here. I think Sonny Gray, they got a great deal and got the money done, and so they made the deal, but they would have been comfortable waiting, but I think that's one you probably are less likely to wait on. I do think, to your point, because of it seems like the reliever market is starting to move a little bit here. Maybe someone makes an offer at JoJo, especially because the left-handed side of the market and free agency is pretty darn thin. There's a lot of good arms to like from the right side, bullpen arms in free agency, but not a lot on the lefty side. And JoJo's coming off an awesome year. Also, there's been reports that he's drawing interest, and it does feel like once those reports start to come out, the market could start to move a little bit more. And so it's gone from speculative of could the Cardinals potentially move him to now it really does sound like they would. And again, if they're talking about guys who fit their timeline, and Blue Moon's very open about it with the Sonny Gray deal, where he was like, yeah, this doesn't fit our timeline, so it made sense for us to make the deal. What definitely doesn't fit your timeline then is a 1 year rental reliever that has a lot of value. So I definitely think he could be on the move. On the Arenado side of it, it's a complicated, like you said, because he got that no trade clause, and it really does depend on the interest on him. And so my guess is there's probably a few teams out there that are not willing to do it today that might be willing to do it later this offseason. If let's say the Phillies lose Kyle Schwarber, or they lose a couple of other guys, or they move Alec Boehm to go get some pitching or prospects or whatever they need. Maybe at that point they want to bring in or open to bring in Arenado, but today maybe they're hesitant to do that because they have so many questions left to answer. I think Nato could be soon because of the Gray deal happening, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it takes a while. But there's plenty of teams out there, whether it's Detroit, Boston. I mean, I think it's like you said. I don't think it's going to happen. But Pittsburgh, like Philly, could be one. I personally, right now, think the Angels would be the team if you told me to pick today, who would trade for Arenado. Like, not even just because Rendon retired. I thought before that, like, talk about a team that is interested in making weird moves like that and does a lot of weird things that honestly doesn't really have a reason not to do it. And it's Southern California, and I just don't see the Dodgers getting in on it. And so for Arenado, I don't know if I call the Angels a more competitive team than the Cardinals in 2026, but they could be. But at least he gets
Maybe,
the
you
yeah,
never they might, develop another superstar and just waste it.
they might. And so playing in Southern California on a team that's pretty comparable makes more sense, probably. Especially since he knows St. Louis is ready to move on from him, and if the Angels want him, that's a whole other thing, right?
Plus,
Maybe if our Pujols was their
baseball.
manager, I think it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, I personally think the Donovan one is probably. I guess here's a question, which this might influence whether or not we think who gets moved. Do you think do you think a trade happens before the winter meetings?
Probably not.
So I think okay.
I mean, the like freeze is kind of over. Like the post Thanksgiving freeze is kind of done, but like I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if we're on here on like Tuesday again and like something's going on, but I would say probably not. It seems like they would probably wait until that happens. I don't think. I know Bloom is like eager to get the ball rolling, but I don't think teams make that many moves like before the winter meetings. I think the winter meetings are like where a lot of this stuff gets discussed, especially with some of these pieces. Like Arenado seems a little bit complicated. Donovan, you're probably going to wait until the winter meetings to move him because all the teams are going to be there and you're going to try to get the price up for him. And then the rest of the guys, I don't know. Like if JoJo gets traded, then yeah, maybe. But like I don't know about. I think Contreras might be like later in the offseason. Like that's definitely a possibility if all these guys end up getting moved. And then like a Gorman or a Burleson. But it looks like you need to fix your hair with a nice headband or something. But
oh yeah, we'll do that here in a few minutes. Yeah, I think if a trade happens before in audio or YouTube, let me know if this makes sense to you. Post or if you're listening live, let me know if this makes sense to you. I think if a deal happens before the winter meetings, it's not Brendan Donovan. But then at the winter meetings, I think a Brendan Donovan trade goes a lot higher. Like I think it becomes a lot more possible because I think you can see, okay, the Cardinals are making progress with the Guardians, and then the Dodgers hop in, and then the Yankees make a stronger offer, and then the Reds make an offer. Like I could see the bidding war getting going and the Cardinals making a move right then. But I really don't think that will happen before the winter meetings, and I definitely could see it happening after. But then if you told me the Cardinals make a deal this week, I would guess it's probably more Nolan Arenado, JoJo Romero. To your point, I don't think Wilson Contreras is moved anytime soon. I think it's going to take later to the offseason if he moves, which I don't think he will. Even though I do think it's more likely than it was before, but I still think it seems like his heels are dug in that he wants to be here. I don't think they're going to move Burleson. And then Gorman New, it seems like part of their interest in moving one or both of those guys is a little bit contingent on what happens to Donovan, because if they keep Donovan, they're more incentivized to move one of those left-handed bats. I think Gorm could go anytime, honestly. I don't think they're really attached to him, but I think Newt's a guy where they're like, if Donovan's gone, why wouldn't we hold on to Newt? Because just from reporting from people who've talked to the team, I think Derek Gould's talked about this. The Cardinals believe they haven't seen the best of Lars Nootbaar yet, and this is including the new regime. And so they think they'd be selling pretty low right now. And so why not give him a first half to potentially flip at the deadline or bring him long-term here? So if Donovan's here, maybe they change their tune on that. But if he's not, I think Newt stays. I kind of doubt there's a world where Donovan's traded and Newt's traded. I think one of them's here. I could see both being here. But I think the most likely scenario is probably Donovan's gone, Newt's on the move. But we'll keep talking about this on the other side, as well as some more Sonny Gray thoughts, because I want to bounce some things I've read off of you. And it seems like nationally, a lot of people are really impressed with the Cardinals did here. But as always, presented by 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 All Boulevard and Olivet. They're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards. They have the new selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players, stars from our league, including one of ones rookie cards like Eric Petty that Andrew has snagged. So if you're on YouTube right now, you get to see this one of one Eric Petty rookie card that Andrew paid way too much money for. So yeah, that's pretty tough. But hey, fun card to have. So if you enjoy collecting sports cards, make sure you go check out 314. They've been so awesome to work with. We think you guys really enjoy them if you haven't been there already. And also we're doing our live charity podcast there. Oh my gosh, it's December 16th, right? The date's always blanking on the top of my head. Tuesday.
That's what I've been telling all our guests, so it better be.
Yeah, 5 to 9. We've already announced Katie Wu, Bernie Michaelis, Jeff Jones, Trevor Rosenthal will be joining us. Brendan Donovan, obviously, is the one we're partnering with on this one to raise money for the Kauffman Fund. So Brendan Donovan will be joining us at the beginning of the night for that. You can join us live in person at 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles from 5 to 9, or you can join us live on YouTube. And we'll be doing giveaways throughout the night, and we're hopefully raising some money for the Kauffman Fund. So we hope you join us for that. Andrew, is there any other guests that we can talk about yet? I know.
Yeah, you can talk about everyone that I've told you about. I feel like.
So Derek Gould will be there at some point as well. Oh, Rob Sterfolio will be there as well. And
wait, do you have that confirmed?
Well,
that
mostly.
Okay. Well, okay.
I just need to follow up again. But yes, it's confirmed. We're gonna say it's confirmed. And then hopefully a couple other special guests. I'm working on those still. We'll see what happens there. But
like Eric Fetty, will he sign my card?
I think a little bit more fun than Eric Fetty, but we'll see. So as always, make sure you check out 314. And also want to tell you about our newest sponsor of the Deal in the Cards podcast, and that is True North sports cards. Sorry, True North gloves. They're the official headband partner of Brendan Donovan. You've maybe seen him wear this one before. I like to wear this when I run or when I'm out or when I'm shoveling snow, like I was this week, like many of you were for this past week. True North has so many different kinds of fun headbands. They sent me a ton the other day, which is super nice of them. I hope that's backwards. All different kinds. They have a really cool line of Brendan Donovan headbands. They also have different kinds of like different themes like America, or if you're a young baseball player, high school baseball player, and you get some of those fun different colored things, like if they do like ice cream cones or stuff like that on other brands and stuff. They've got stuff like that, whether it's for batting gloves, headbands, golf gloves, pickleball gloves, all kinds of stuff at True North Gloves. They're a local St. Louis business. And again, they're the official partner of Brendan Donovan when it comes to his headbands. Vinny Pasquantino. They've got so many cool stuff over there. Again, I like to wear this headband for a variety of reasons. So even if you're not a baseball player anymore and you've got long hair like me, there's ways to use them. And they're just fun. I really like the look of them. So make sure you go get a fun headband from True North. If you use our code TrueNorth25 on their website, you can get 25% off your order. Again, go to TrueNorthGloves.com, save 25% with code TrueNorth25. Thanks, True North, for your partnership on that. And again, official headband of Brendan Donovan. So, with all that being said, Dan, it's not Mo, but not far off potentially. So we'll see. This has been fun so far.
Schilt.
Could you imagine? Okay, if we wanted to raise money for charity, we get Schilt and Mo together. See what happens. But anyways, Sonny Gray trade. So Andrew, I don't know how much you or listeners have looked into some of the takes, I guess I should say, from the Sonny Gray deal. In the moment, obviously, I think all three of us were pretty impressed by what the Cardinals did here. But then I was like curious. I was like, what nationally are people saying about the Sonny Gray trade? So I've got a bunch of different quotes I want to read to you real quick. But I just want to what do you like? Do you think nationally the Cardinals are there's been love for the deal from the Cardinals end of what they did for Sonny Gray?
I haven't really looked nationally. I haven't really spent a lot of time doing that, but I would guess that people, from what I've seen, people are liking Boston more in this trade. And I think that's just because I don't think they understand what's necessarily happening here, like in terms of prospects and when you trade a player that everybody knows for prospects that people haven't heard of. I'm sure there's like a handful of prospects that most national people know, and if they had gotten one of those guys back, then yeah, that it might have swung that way for the Cardinals. But two guys that generally people who aren't as plugged in with the Cardinals haven't heard of, and Sonny Gray, who's borderline Hall of pretty good, right? That's where we're at with him at this point. So pretty much everyone around baseball knows Sonny Gray, knows he's still a quality arm. I think Boston in the short term, probably is going to come out on top. They're building a pretty good rotation up there, and they're going to go for it with a bunch of young guys. That I wonder who drafted those guys, by the way. But who developed that farm system. So maybe
Oh
that's
yeah, which
exciting.
Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark were not Hein Bloom picks. Both of them came
Right.
into the organization afterward. But yeah, you're right. That organization, and actually, I thought this was a really interesting quote from Bloom. He was on with Tom Ackerman this morning, and he was reflecting on that deal, and he made a comment to the fact of like, "Hey, we love Sonny Gray. We think he's an awesome pitcher, but he doesn't fit our timeline." And then he flipped it and said, kind of like what Boston did, or what we did in Boston, where we built up all this young talent, and now they're ready to go for it, and they're making moves like this. And so it tells me Bloom is trying to build the base like he did in Boston. When the young talent, young core is ready, then they will be the team that in 2028 or 2027 or 2029 during offseason, they go out and they'll trade for a number 2 starter or number 3 starter or number 1 starter. They'll trade for a big bat or something they need using their strong farm system to go and do that when they have their own version of a Roman Anthony, whether it's JJ Weatherhold or Ryan Rodriguez or someone who's not even in the system yet. But yeah, so I was looking at some of the takes. Ken Rosenthal, who we all know is probably one of the most respected insiders in the game, said he thought the Cardinals did really well. He really liked the idea of getting Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark back. And he just personally thought the Cardinals did well, and he didn't think the Red Sox did well enough. And what Ken Rosenthal talked about, I think a lot of people around the game, is from the Red Sox perspective, there's disappointment in the fact that people were hoping they'd shoot higher than Sonny Gray as their number 2 potentially. And so if Gray is their number 2 and they don't get another big starter, they'll be disappointed. But I don't think anyone from there are some people who think they potentially gave up a little bit too much, but there's also some people who don't think they did that. I've seen a lot of win-wins, like The Athletic, Chad Jennings and Zach Missile both reflected on it. They talked, or Chad Jennings said the Cardinals got 2 big arms that are a quality return for an overpaid rental in Sonny Gray. Zach Missile said that these teams were a great match. It's entirely possible both sides wind up pleased, just at drastically different times. So Sonny Gray obviously will make the Red Sox happy in 2026, but the Cardinals could be the one who's really celebrating in 2028, 2029. RJ Anderson really liked the deal for the Cardinals. And at the end, he said, if the Cardinals can help Clark make any progress with his location, this could turn out to be a lopsided deal in favor of the Cardinals. Now, ESPN gave the Cardinals a C for it. Dave Schoenfeld didn't really like the return. There are some people out there who, anyway, the ESPN is not necessarily my go-to for baseball stuff, but I think it's fair to throw stuff in there. But there's a lot of love nationally for what the Cardinals did here. Again, I think to your point, when you give up a player like Sonny Gray, even though there's mixed feelings about his time in St. Louis, and you get, unless you're getting a top prospect in all of baseball, which you weren't going to get for Sonny Gray, honestly, I think we were all shocked they got what they did for him. Part of that's because they ate that $20 million. And I was kind of surprised, like even like a Derek Gould on his podcast was kind of surprised they had to eat $20 million to get the kind of return they did. I personally thought it was going to take $20 million to get something pretty good. The fact that they got Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark, which honestly, obviously, I think I would love for it to be Tully as well, but like that was never going to happen for Sonny Gray. Maybe Brendan Donovan trade if they wanted to do that. But to get, so you're telling me, so to move Sonny Gray and $20 million, so which they were like, maybe you go spend on a middle, like a Dustin May type, right? Like, which they still could do this. They got salary flexibility because they save money in this deal. But now they're paying $20 million to get a controllable arm for 5 years and Richard Fitz. So even if he's a number 4, number 5 starter, or just kind of a swing starter, like it's a cheap arm you don't have to go pay, who could end up being even better for you. So I thought that was a win. And then Brandon Clark, where it's like, okay, this guy, if this works out, you have a true top of the rotation type talent of your arm. And that's obviously best case scenario. The likelihood of it probably not super high, but it's there. Good scenario, who's a really good starter, who's got great stuff, but maybe not top end because he's erratic. There's scenarios where he's a shutdown reliever with that kind of stuff. And that's a huge win, even for one, because we're talking about 1 year of Sonny Gray. You didn't trade Brendan Donovan for this. You traded a rental guy who's getting paid $35 million, actually $40 million, because you had that $5 million or $10 million buyout for the next year. So you're the team that was trading for him was on the hook for even more than 35, or the Cardinals, the for sure commitment already was more than 35. So for someone like that to get those kind of arms back, like even though sometimes in the moment you could be prisoner of the moment and really hate a deal and realize actually it wasn't that bad. In the moment, sometimes you can look at a deal and love it and then be like, maybe overreacted. I still feel the same multiple days later about this Sonny Gray trade. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's like too much to really get into yet. Like once we see what ends up happening with the two players they got back, like if like there's a chance Fitz is just awful and Cardinals fans just hate him and he's regarded in the same way as like, Palante from last year. Where like, yeah, that's definitely within the range of outcomes. Like he could just not pan out and Clark could get hurt and end up, just not really panning out, and the Red Sox end up like winning the World Series with Sonny Gray in like 2 years, right? Like that's within the range of outcomes here. Um, but I think they definitely got pieces that are like I think Fitz is relatively safe. I don't think even if he like bottoms out is going to just be like a DFA candidate after a year or two. Um, and I think with Clark, yeah, there's risk there. There's risk with pretty much all of the Cardinals arms that are highly touted, like Matthews and Jerpy and those guys. But that's the kind of player that you need to be shooting for. And if none of those guys end up working out, if just one of them ends up working out and being a frontline starter, then that's all you really need with like Doyle and these guys. But if it ends up being him, that's another shot to get your frontline starter. And if he ends up being a reliever, and if he ends up being a really good reliever, like I don't know, if he ends up being Matt Swanson for like multiple years, I'll take that, sure. Because the Cardinals are not going anywhere with Sonny Gray this year, most likely. And if they do, they're probably the Reds getting stomped by the Dodgers, and everyone wondering why did they even make the playoffs? Because that was the worst thing I've ever seen. Like something like that is probably their ceiling this year with Sonny Gray. So I think there's definitely room to reflect on it later. Like for example, the Fetty trade with Tommy Edman at the time looked great. I think MLB.com said the Cardinals sneakily won the deadline after trading for Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham, and Sean Armstrong. Oops, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, it's a really fair point to think about when it comes to a deal like this is again, that's why I even put in the article because I wrote up some of those reviews that the Cardinals got on this trade. And it's like when a trade happens, no matter what the deal is, you can't really grade it in the moment. You can grade what the value was that was given up based on what you thought you'd have to do. But like again, like Sandy Alcantara and Zach Allen ended up being way better than sure. Like again, there were people out there who at the moment did not like the trade. There were people who plugged in who, especially knowing Marcell Azuna's arm issue and that it wasn't going to go well. Like there were people who are like, yeah, this is a really dumb idea for the Cardinals. But most people on the outside looking in, myself included, were like, whoa, that's what you were able to get Marcell Ozuna for Alcantara and Gallen. Guess who was dead wrong? Me, a lot of other people. Again, Eric Fetty side of things, I like that deal in the moment because I'm like, hey, you're giving up Tommy Edman, and this feels like pretty fair value for that. Tommy Edman goes and wins World Series MVP. It has been awesome. Well, he is pretty good for the Dodgers this past year. Eric Fetty obviously turned out terrible. Now, I think we think about this deal a lot differently if the Cardinals just traded Eric Fetty in the offseason like they should have. But beside the point, you're right. Like, we'll never really know until then. But I do think it's my biggest takeaway from it all, and I think you probably agree with this, is the DeWitt family backed up what they said, that they would give Chaim Bloom the resources he needs to turn this around. And so you look and they're expanding their player development groups. Now, again, I understand that I'm not trying to glaze the DeWitt family. It's not like everyone bow down to Bill DeWitt Jr. for being the best owner in baseball. I am just saying they're moving and they're shifting in the directions we're asking them to. Again, their player development groups and the coordinators and all those things that Katie Wu's article from 2 years ago now, or last year, I should say, right before that transition was announced. Like it's real. Like they fell way behind the times. And now they're starting to get caught up and they're trying to figure out how to get the cutting edge. You look at all the hires they made this past offseason or last offseason, all the hires they made this offseason, the infrastructure they're doing across the board, the minor league levels, important shifts. When the Cardinals had an opportunity to add young talent to their system and they had to eat money on it, the DeWitt family said, we'll do it. Like think about as an owner, like they're not getting the immediate satisfaction of getting a good player back. They're paying $20 million for Sonny Gray to potentially be awesome for the Boston Red Sox. But they did it because they're like, hey, Chaim Bloom says Brandon Clark's arm could be really good and Richard Fitz would be really helpful. So we'll do it. And to me, that's just really encouraging what the future could look like. It doesn't mean like we're still going to have to kind of wait on pins and needles a little bit to see if they back it up in 2028 and 2029 when hopefully this team is ready to contend again and they'll actually invest in the team. But I'm at least encouraged that it seems like they're moving in the direction of the things they said they would do. And Heimblum's decisiveness, Heimblum's ability to see these things too, that he didn't just go for the easy deal to try and dump Sonny Gray's money, but he's like, hey, I'm going to try and identify really good talent out there and go make this team better for the future. That he didn't like Mo last offseason, honestly, where it feels like he kind of sat on his hands all offseason, held on to all the trade chips they had. Obviously, Nolan Arenado was a tough situation. He didn't have full control, but they didn't move Fetty, right? They didn't move Stephen Matz. They didn't move Ryan Helsley. They held their pieces. They didn't move Noop Gorman. Donovan. They held everybody. And Heimblum's walking in and saying, yeah, enough of that. We're going to be directed, decisive with our moves. And there are some really good quotes from Bloom the other day in the immediate aftermath of the Sonny Gray trade that I also really liked, that just kind of spoke to his desire to be just to jump on things immediately. Let me pull this up here.
Is the patience quote?
Well, no. It's actually someone asking about someone asked him about patience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so he says, the more fully we commit to what we need to do, the better it will go and the quicker we'll get there. I don't view this as something that's about patience. I view it as something we have to attack with urgency. And I think there's actually a difference there. Like, I honestly think fans will love, or I shouldn't say love, fans will be more open to something like that. And it's more believable. And honestly, it's more persuasive instead of just saying, hey, be patient. We are asking for patience.
The exact opposite of what they've been saying for the last 3 years.
But I do think some people mean when they say don't be patient, like they're saying go make a big move now. And what Bloom is saying, hey, we're building for the future, but we can't be patient in doing it. We have to attack every single day like we're a World Series contender today. It doesn't mean they go and make a big signing today, but it does mean if we're going to be rebuilding or if we're going to be building for the future, then we're doing everything we possibly can right now to maximize the future. We're being decisive. We're being creative. We're doing whatever we can to make that future better. And then he said this as well. We have somewhere we need to go, and we're not there now. The way to get there is building on our core talent and acquiring promising young talent. So again, from their perspective, they're not going to be sitting on their hands and trying to play both worlds. We're like, oh, we're trying to contend a little bit. We're going to try and rebuild. We're trying to do all these different things and have it all of our ways. He's like, no, we're going to attack this with urgency now. And I think it's a very different tone that we've heard from before. And he's backed it up with, he didn't just say the cool thing. He did the cool thing, right? Like, we didn't know if Sonny Gray could be moved, and he got moved early. We thought it would be kind of a disappointing return, and he got some interesting arms in return. They ate big money on it. Like, again, it's one deal. Maybe the disappointments of the Brendan Donovan deal. Maybe this Nolan Arenado saga is really frustrating. Maybe they don't trade JoJo. Like, there's room to fail here for sure. But I'm really liking what we've seen from Bloom so far in his first offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's just started, but so far, he's delivering. Hopefully these guys start turning around soon, and hopefully some of these guys end up being good, because Heim hasn't necessarily ruled out the Cardinals surprising people next year.
Yeah,
I don't really think that that's going to happen, but I think that would be a fun thing to watch out for in the coming months.
Yeah, we'll see. So overall, again, there's been a really rank these: patience, dry powder, and runway. Dry powder is a throwback. I don't know if you know.
I don't even know what that is. Basically, that a thing?
Yeah, they would talk about they would have quote unquote dry powder to use at the deadline. So they would have financial flexibility to go make a move at the deadline. So that's why they didn't spend all of it at once in the offseason.
23.
Well, not just 23. They would say that in the past because people would ask, oh, are you going to do this and this? And you don't start. Well, we need to have dry powder. We need to have the financial ability to go make that move at the deadline if needed. And then they wouldn't really do those big moves at the deadline. Or maybe their dry powder was $6 million of Jose Quintana. But
it was almost Juan Soto, but
Well, there's conflicting reports about how serious that was. But at they never had Mackenzie Gore, so it wasn't happening. Not Dylan Carlson. No one cares about that part. The Nationals did not care all that much. They didn't have Mackenzie Gore type. So
yeah.
And Matthew Liberatore clearly is not Mackenzie Gore, and Tim Kent's clearly wasn't Mackenzie Gore. So, but
now we got jumping out of cars in 6-7. So there you go.
Yeah. So, hey, we need to get that clip. It's so funny.
I
Funny.
have it. I have it there.
Wait, will you do?
I do. Not in here, but
We need to have it in here so I can just play it sometimes. I was like 6'7".
Oh.
Because it'd be funny if like we ever accidentally say it. And we got 67 live viewers right now. 67, right?
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's just funny. It's not funny when I say it, but it was really funny when Bloom said it. Okay. It's just it's so good.
Yeah. Rails.
Anyways, before people are like, why do I listen to you guys anymore? Which maybe they thought that already, but we'll be bot live again or later this week. Obviously, if another deal goes down or something, we'll be here to react to it. The winter meetings are next week, so very excited about that. The Cardinals should be extremely active. There should be a lot of news and things to react to. Maybe I'll take some questions from the chat real quick on our way out. But what do we need to see from Chase Davis 2026? Obviously, he's fallen a little bit out of favor in terms of prospect rankings, right? He's not a top prospect in the system by any means. Hasn't quite been shouldn't say quite. He hasn't been what you hope for from a first round pick from the Cardinals organization at this point, but I still think he has potential. Think of, again, Joshua Baez was a high schooler. Chase Davis is a college bass. This is different situations, but like think about a guy like Josh Baez who's spent time in the system and then finally clicked this past year. I do think 2026 is probably a huge year for Chase Davis, and whether or not he'll ever be a legit prospect or even a future big leaguer. Or a guy who just kind of never really makes it. I think he'll probably debut at some point, but is he a dude in the system or is he just another dude? I don't know. So, but Joshua Baez though seems to be getting a ton of hype, so that's fun. Are you at all like? I mean, are you excited about the Cardinals position player young core coming up between like a JJ and a Baez and a right now?
I think it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely good to look at and see what could happen. I know the Cardinals historically have just developed guys. Position player wise, and the top prospects for the most part have kind of flamed out. So hopefully that can change.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can still develop those like Brendan Donovans and Tommy Edmonds that, are not really guys that people ever think about. And then they come up and they're really productive. Hopefully that can happen too.
Yeah. Again, if you've got if there's any questions in the chat, go ahead and throw them in now. We'll try to get to them right at the end here. And again, if you're not listening live, obviously it's an encouragement to listen live in the future. You can drop comments in the YouTube below or audio. Again, rate, review, like, and subscribe helps out a ton. But I'm curious, this wasn't asked the question, but the statement was given. If JJ gets called up, will he? Oh, actually, it was a question. Will he bat lead off? A couple questions for you, Andrew. I'll say 3. Do you think he's on the opening day roster?
Yeah.
2, what position do you think he's going to play? And 3, where do you think he bats in the lineup?
I would say probably second because, if Donovan gets traded, then obviously someone needs to play second. And if Gorman stays, then he's probably playing third anyway. And even if Donovan doesn't get traded and Nootbaar gets traded, then he's probably in the outfield because the Cardinals have no outfielders. Because in lineup wise, like Scott, the bat is whatever, and then Walker. My bold prediction for him is that he's going to be terrible next year. Hopefully that turns him around. But I think second is pretty clearly like I don't think third is really much of a thing unless Gorman gets traded and Donovan doesn't, which I don't really think that is a very likely outcome. And even if that's the case, like you probably put like Sajaci at third at that point and like Weatherholt at second. I think second's just his natural position. So that's probably where he ends up.
Yeah. I'm going to say he is going to be their third baseman in 2026. Part of that's just even reading tea leaves from some reporting from like a Derek Gould and others, but they really did start having him work at third base for a reason this past year.
I think it's just to have that versatility. Like I could see him playing third, but I don't think he'll get most of his reps.
Yeah, I do think for the versatility, and I'm saying this because even with Donovan gone, I actually think they would put Gorm back at second base. He's been a much better defensive second baseman. He doesn't have a plus arm for third base, but he does have a plus arm for second base, which allows him to help turn double plays better and make some plays at second base that other second basemen can't make because of his arm. Obviously, his agility and mobility at the second base isn't that great. But I'll predict that JJ Weatherholt plays third base in 2026. I don't think he'll lead off. I think they'll do the Mason Wynn thing probably, or Newt at lead off. to start opening day. So I'll say probably like, well, if we had the Bloom thing, 6 or 7, I think he'll be a little bit lower in the lineup. I don't think they'll want to put the pressure on him that early, but I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, hey, let's have fun with it. And he bats leadoff.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be Mason Winter Newt.
Cardinals have a projected good lineup, like on the Fangraphs thing. Their rotation is like the only team they're better than is, I think, the Rockies, but their lineup is projected to be pretty good for next year, like 12th or 13th.
Another one here that I think is interesting. What other hitters besides JJ will be up next year? I mean, I think JJ is the one that you expect to potentially be an everyday player next year. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if Joshua Baez makes a debut in 2026, but I think they're going to be patient with him. So I would guess more 2027. I also think Leonardo Bernal is potentially a guy, but I also think they'll probably be patient with him. And both guys I don't think would be early in 20 or even mid 2026. I think you're probably looking at the back half of the year. I don't really expect a lot of position player debuts. I think 2026 is more the year of the pitcher in 2026 for debuts when it comes to Quinn Matthews, potentially Liam Doyle at some point. Could Eshan or Brendan Davis make a debut? Tink Hens, could he make his debut? Cooper Jerpy, could he make his debut? I kind of doubt we see Tacoma Ruby should be albumless next year, but I think you see a lot more pitchers make debuts.
Yeah.
Obviously Crooks will still be a rookie, so he could play, but again, he's made that debut, and Nathan Church potentially could have a little bit of an increased role. So yeah, see. But I think that's mostly it for the questions today. Again, we'll be back later this week, and I think we've got a fun video hopefully coming in the next few days that we'll be able to share with you guys as well. Again, as always, like and subscribe helps channel a ton. If you're listening to audio, rate, review, comment down below your thoughts on who you think to be traded next and all these different types of things or questions you want us to address in future podcast episodes. Thanks again to 314 for being a presenting sponsor. Thanks again to True North for you being an awesome, great sponsor, a new sponsor for the Deal on the Cards podcast. And make sure you check out new True North gloves for their products as well. And then again, we have that charity live stream coming up on December 16th, so mark your calendars for that. And make sure you go check out that Birds on the Farm episode, the Kyle Reese and Kareem from this week. It was a really great episode, popped off. You guys should go check that out. But as always, really appreciate the support of the podcast. Like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.